He way past the label being a rat, being a snitch. He way past that. Matter of fact, he didn't embraced it. At the very least, dude wrote 3 books about being a rat. He like, listen, if Trump gonna give me this label, I'm gonna just go ahead and embrace it. I'm gonna make my money. I'm not a lawyer anymore. I took my conviction. I did 3 years. I'm disbarred. I'm out for the count. Call me a rat. Call me a snitch. I got 3 books for you. Disloyal, Revenge, and The Big Lie.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level representation. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.
What's good, beautiful people? It's your boy K Will. Welcome to another episode of Call Your First Witness. I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited about today's show. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Your boy is checking back in. And you know how we do it. We want to make sure we on top of what's popping in the news. And today, I want to break down the Trump case that's going on in New York City, right? So listen, there's a lot going on. A guy by the name of David Pecker testified. He finished his testimony as it relates to him being questioned by the people of New York. I'm sure he's going to be cross-examined by the defense. But before I jump into David Pecker and his testimony, I got to slow this thing down. I got to back it up. I got to start it from the beginning. You know how I do it? I want to start from A when I'm covering this. I got to break it down. So let's start it from the beginning. First and foremost, jury selection was last week. All right. So if you've been following it, there's been a lot of coverage on this case. Obviously, it's dealing with Donald Trump. You've probably heard of it as the hush money trial. So essentially, Donald Trump is on trial for 34 counts of falsifying business records, right? And so this stems from the 2016 election. Essentially, it is alleged that Trump was concealing hush money payments, falsifying business records by covering up those payments and classifying it as something else. For example, a payment by Trump's campaign was made to his former lawyer, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen received about $130,000 from Trump's campaign. However, it was covered up as legal fees. It is alleged that Michael Cohen received a home equity loan, took that $130,000, paid Stormy Daniels' lawyer to keep quiet on the story, and he got reimbursed from Trump's team. But so all that what the people of New York is saying, all that was being concealed, that should have been revealed. And if it was revealed, it would have been a violation of election laws. It would have been a violation of campaign financing laws under New York State, right? And so under New York penal law, whenever you're talking about falsifying bank records, normally that's a misdemeanor. That's misdemeanor in the second degree. But what makes this a felony is on top of the fraudulent behavior, falsifying business records, it is alleged that Trump either committed a crime or concealed committing a crime by way of violating finance campaign laws and or violating election laws, right? When you pay hush money and you don't reveal exactly what that payment is and you classify it as legal fees, that's a violation of New York law as it relates to campaign financing and the election laws. So you got, not only are you falsifying business records, but you also are covering up a crime, which makes it a felony. Now, in the grand scheme of things, each count, Trump is looking at up to 4 years. And so you say, yeah, that's a lot of counts, 34 counts. But whenever it says up to 4 years, that means this law starts with 0. So the judge does not have to max Trump out if he's convicted. He starts with 0 and the maximum is 4 years. And the people of New York is essentially saying this happened over a series of time, month after month after month during the campaign. But I would be shocked if Trump was convicted. The judge would hit Trump with consecutive years, meaning I give you 4 for this count, and then when you're done with serving 4 years for this count, I'm gonna give you another 4. When you're done with those 4, I'm gonna give you. I would be shocked, right? And that's only assuming if he's convicted. So basically, what I'm saying, in the grand scheme of things, although it's a felony, although it's serious, obviously it's against a former president. So this is a historic case. Never in United States history a former president or any president has been on trial. Trump has full trials pending, y'all. This is the first criminal trial that is underway prior to the election. As you may know, Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party, right? And he's on trial. He got a whole lot going on, a whole lot of lawyers on his team. I mean, he's fighting tooth and nail. And so what's interesting with all this litigation, 4 trials, man, is crazy, because I can't help but to think about the lawyers on this case. If you've been following me and listening to my episodes, you know, I'm always intrigued about the team, the defense team, the prosecutors team. You know, I do my research on all the lawyers. And so what I was reminded out the gate when I started looking more back into this case is there's a lawyer that once represented Trump on this particular case that's in Manhattan that's no longer on the case. His name is Joseph Tacopina. Joseph Tacopina is a renowned criminal defense attorney in New York, right? Well-known, has tried highly publicized cases. This ain't his first rodeo. What I've heard, a very prolific criminal defense attorney, right? I was looking forward to seeing him in action, and unfortunately, there's no cameras in the courtroom in New York, but I still wanted to see Mr. Tacopina do his thing. But I was reminded, oh man, wait, he's not even on the case anymore, right? No shade against Ty Blanche, who's now at the helm. He's a former prosecutor. He handles a lot of white collar crimes. No shade against him, but I really wanted to also see Joseph Tacopina. But he's no longer on the case, and it just made me sit back and think, like, I wonder how it is to represent Trump. You know what I mean? Like, how is it Trump has had many lawyers. Mr. Tacopina won't be the first or last lawyer that got off the case. Trump has a lot of criminal stuff going on, a lot of civil stuff going on, and you hear a lot of these stories where lawyers just say, listen, I'm out. And when I was thinking about just the whole scenario, I couldn't help but to think of the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. I'm like, man, Trump is a client to his attorneys, similar to Jerry Jones as the owner is to his coaches, right? Like, think about it. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, always get primetime games. You got a very wealthy owner, right? But at the same time, when he hires a coach, that coach already know coming in, you ain't running the show. Yeah, you were tapped for your coaching prowess, and yeah, you got a history of winning, and you got your own little catalog of accomplishments. But when you come to the Dallas Cowboys, you need to understand Jerry Jones run this show. Jerry Jones is making all the decisions. No, he's not the owner behind the scenes, chilling, letting all the experts do their thing. No, you already know Jerry Jones front and center. He doing all the interviews. He's talking about the talent. He's questioning coaches' decisions. He'll be in an interview immediately after the game. And that's the same way with Trump. Trump, as the client, you better know coming in, Trump is running the show. Yeah, he gonna tap somebody and say, yeah, I heard about your legal accomplishments. I understand you do well in court. All that great stuff. I want you to join the team. But you must understand, and I don't even know if this conversation is had with the attorney. I just think it's understood. Just know Trump is running the show. Don't tell me what I can and can't say with the media. Don't tell me about strategy. I get you got the expertise and I don't got the JD, but guess what? This is my brand. It just remind me of that. It's that kind of vibe. And it's like, listen, you got to make a decision. Just like Mike McCarthy, a very accomplished coach, before he came to the Cowboys, had to make a decision. Listen, I can either be the coach of America's team and everything that has to offer, right? I get primetime TV. Even if I'm a mediocre coach, I'm probably good. Even if I'm fired, I might get good jobs post my time with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm highly covered by the media. My name's always talked about, good or bad. Some would say all press is good press, good or bad. But at the same time, I ain't running the show. At the same time, I don't have to say so. At the same time, I might have a problem with the owner saying this and getting in front of the camera and saying this and saying that about the players or saying this about the coaches and causing turmoil in the locker room. I got a problem with that as the coach. That's why Bill Parcells clashed with Jerry Jones. He said, listen, man, if I'm the one in the kitchen cooking the dinner, I want to buy the groceries too. So if you lead attorney and you have been accomplished for so many years and all of a sudden you get tapped, people reach out to you, say, listen, you want to join the Trump team, but then you join the team and you realize, man, I'm not running this show. I come on, I understand this is a high profile case. Ain't a whole lot of criminal defense lawyers I know don't want to take a case that's not highly publicized. When my name is in the paper, whether it's opening statements, closing arguments, talking about a case that I had that was highly publicized, I already know that's free marketing. That's free publicity. I don't have to pay for that. So as a criminal defense attorney, we already know a high profile case. Yeah, I'm interested. But the flip side, if you representing Trump, it's like, man, I'm here to win. I'm trying to be on a winning team and I'm trying to be at the helm. But if my client is not listening to my advice, and one of the biggest problems you have with Trump, and he won't tell you it's a problem because he gonna say it's my brand, is he talks so much. He on social media, he on his account with Truth Social. He got press conferences. Man, this trial just started. Trump is giving press conferences before opening statements, giving a press conference after opening statements. There's a gag order saying he can't talk about witnesses. He can't talk about the judge. He can't talk about nothing in the case. Yet, lo and behold, he having a press conference talking about all that stuff. And I'm looking at the coverage and I'm like, ain't nobody pushing them to the side. Ain't nobody saying, hold up, Trump, remember the gag order, man. Chill on that, man. You don't want to get held in contempt. I'm the lawyer, so I'm representing you. I don't want to get held in contempt. Trump's current lawyer right now, they had a hearing, his lawyer, Ty Blanchard, saying, listen, judge, my client can't be held responsible for just a retweet. So you got to come in court and explain that situation. And the judge told Trump's lawyer, listen, you losing your credibility. As defense lawyers, you don't want to be in a position where the court is telling you you are losing your credibility with me. Now, thank goodness for these type of hearings, the jury is not in the courtroom. Man, it's over if the jury hear the judge say something like that. But it's one of those situations where the lawyers know what they're getting into. And sometimes it's tough. Man, come on, Trump. Like, we don't need you to win the case in the court of public opinion. We trying to win this case within the four walls of this courtroom. But we already know Trump ain't trying to hear that. Trump said, man, do you not understand that I go by President Donald Trump? Which is true. Bill Clinton goes by President Bill Clinton. Barack Obama goes by President Barack Obama. We don't really say former president if you think about it. Once you're a president, you're a lifetime president. Although you're not in office, you still go by that title. So you already know the power, the money. What are you talking about, a gag order? And so Trump is like, listen, man, I got to defend myself. And so every moment he has, media, but you got to understand, he's off the campaign trail because he has to be in court in New York. Normally, he would be on the campaign trail, so he need that podium. He need that soapbox. He need his social media account and every little minute. We should have had more than just 10 strikes to get people off the jury. I'm in a second to worst jurisdiction I can be. How can I get a fair trial? The judge is conflicted. He talking about the judge that's presiding over his case. So Trump's former attorney, Joseph Tacopina, I don't know what happened. I don't want to speculate, but I could see him getting off saying, listen, man, you going in a direction that is not consistent with a winning formula. And I don't want to be attached to this. I know you got the money. I know I get the publicity. I know, all the perks associated with me being your lawyer, win, lose, or draw. But at the end of the day, I got to make a decision, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were bumping heads. Just like coaches in the past have bumped heads with Jerry Jones, ex Jimmy Johnson. But anyway, that was just an observation I had. Let's get back to the trial, y'all. So basically, this is an interesting case. Let's talk about jury selection. Now, I'm not going to lie. I thought jury selection would last longer than it did. It only lasted for about a week. They got 12 jury members and 6 alternates. Now, we all understand that Trump is a polarizing figure. If you talking about Trump, you talking about people who really got strong feelings against or for him. You either love him or you hate him. Let's just keep it real, right? And so what's interesting is whenever we talking about jury selection, all we trying to do, and y'all, I absolutely love jury selection. It is the most fascinating aspect of the trial. I love doing jury selection. There's this book called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, I haven't finished the whole book, but it reminds me what jury selection is. Essentially, what you're doing is talking to strangers. But it's kind of like speed dating because you're having a conversation with people in a very intense environment, and it's fast. You're getting to know everything you need to know about this person to arrive at one simple fundamental question: will you be fair? Right? And it's not just, are you a fair person, but are you a fair person for this case? Think about it. Trump is on trial. People have strong feelings, whether in favor of Trump or whether against Trump. Think about it. And a lot of times I ask prospective jurors when I'm doing a voir dire, that's what we call jury selection, I'll ask them a simple question. What if you were sitting at the defense table as the defendant? Or one of your loved ones. And so we certainly would want our loved ones to have a fair trial. We certainly wouldn't want people who bring preconceived notions in the courtroom who have already made up their decision. We certainly wouldn't want that for anybody we love or care about sitting at that defense table. We certainly wouldn't want that for us. So if we had disdain against Trump and whatever was said, we already believe he was guilty, that wouldn't be fair for Trump because that wouldn't be fair for you or your loved ones. So what's fascinating is you got to make sure there are, as the defense lawyer and the prosecutor, you got to make sure there are 12 people who will give your client a fair shake in this case. And we have unlimited challenges for cause, which means if anyone expresses from that pool, they had about 100 people that came in, and during voir dire, you would question an amount of people. I don't know how many people they would question at a time, but we call it panels, and they would question that panel. And if anyone expressed, I can't be fair, I hate Trump, I didn't vote for Trump, anything is said about Trump, I'm going to just be honest right now, I feel like Trump is already guilty, that person could be challenged for cause because they're making it clear on the record that regardless of what the law is, regardless that Trump is presumed innocent, and they expressing that they cannot be fair, they got to be challenged for cause. And so as a defense lawyer, I definitely want to make sure I'm finding all the people on there that I can challenge for cause. So it's important for me to get them to talk. But also, we have what we call peremptory challenges, peremptory strikes. And in a case like this, the state and the prosecutor has 10 peremptory challenges. Now, what that means, basically that means, listen, we could challenge you for whatever reason. We don't like the way you look. We don't like the color tie you got on. We don't like how you look at our client. As long as we can articulate it where it's race neutral, meaning we're not striking people because of their race or their gender, we could strike them. But remember, it's only 10. That's why you had Trump going on his social media account saying, listen, I don't understand why we only had 10 strikes. So clearly he was upset with the amount of strikes he had, and he probably didn't have an opportunity to get all the people he wanted off. Now, it's never perfect. You got to be calculated about these strikes because you're not the only one striking. The people that you may want on that jury, the prosecutor team may exercise one of their peremptory strikes. So it's a game within a game. And so you trying to figure out, man, how many strikes the prosecutor got? Let's see how many they didn't use. Let's see if they can exhaust all their strikes so you can hold yours. And what I found interesting is out of the questions to the prospective jurors, they asked everybody what news outlets you listen to. Where do you get your news from? New York Times, MSNBC, Fox, Twitter, Facebook. My bad, not Twitter, X now. Where do you get your news from? Truth Social. Truth Social is a media platform owned by one of Donald Trump's companies. That's on the questionnaire. And juror number 2, he didn't check MSNBC, he didn't check Fox, he didn't check Facebook. He checked 2 media outlets, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Truth Social. And so now you like, ooh, somebody's on the jury who gets their news from a media outlet owned by one of Donald Trump's companies. And so it makes you think, is this person pro-Trump? How did they get on the jury? How did the prosecutor not strike them? Did they run out of strikes? You can't challenge him just for cause just because he's on one of these media outlets that just so happen to be owned by Trump. That's not going to rise to the level of automatically being prejudiced against the people of New York. So I found that interesting because he made the jury. He's jury number 2. And if I had to take a guess, I bet Trump's team was like, we won't keep him on there. So anyway, Monday started opening statements. So this is the opportunity for the people of New York, lead prosecutor, to present their outline to the jury, what they believe the evidence will show. No, their opening statements are not facts of the case, but it's a presentation of what the people of New York believe the evidence will show. And so opening statements, y'all, is critical. A lot is talked about how impactful the closing was and how the attorney brought it home, but don't sleep on opening statements. Opening statement sets the tenor and the tone of the case. You want to come out there with all the confidence in the world. If you're the defense lawyer, you want to convey to the jury that my client's not guilty, and let me tell you why. If you're the prosecutor, you want to lay it out for the jury and let them know the person sitting at that defense table as the defendant is guilty of sin, and let me tell you why. And what I've learned from the prosecutor, listen, Trump is on trial for falsifying business documents, but the narrative is much bigger than that. Essentially, what the prosecution is saying is Trump deceived the American people by doing hush money payments and concealing how those transactions came about and essentially influencing the entire campaign. That's the big word they're using. He deceived the American people. Essentially, the argument is like he stole the election. He deceived the American people. That's the narrative. Although We talking about the falsification of business records, and we talking about hush money payments that allegedly transpired during the campaign. They're saying all this was in connection with Trump getting into the White House. All this deception, all these broken laws, deceiving campaign financing laws, deceiving election laws, all that, hush money payments, not knowing where it came from, all that is deception to gain an advantage to get into the White House. However, you got Trump's lawyer gets up there and open his statement and say, wait, hold on a second. The people of New York are saying that my client is influencing them to gain their votes? Last time I checked, that's called democracy. Last time I checked, that's what candidates do to get into office. The whole idea is to influence people to gain their votes. That's called democracy. What are we talking about? As a matter of fact, Trump's defense lawyer saying, listen, we talking about paperwork, alleged falsification of documents that Trump was relying on his lawyer to take care of. Objection. Sustained. He done. Watch it. Mr. Blanche moves on in this opening. We talking about Stormy Daniels, who lied to the American people and was going to say that she had an affair with Trump, which was a straight up lie. Objection. Sustained. Opening statements getting a little rocky for the defense. And then Mr. Blanche keep going. We talking about NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and Trump's lawyer negotiating. Trump ain't had nothing to do with that. He relied on his lawyers. Objection. Sustained. So Ty Blanche is getting a lot of objections and messing up his momentum, and now he got to go to the judge. The judge approach in the middle of his opening statement. Now let me tell y'all something. When I'm doing my opening statements, I hate being objected to, because the law says, listen, what we say in opening statements is not evidence. So let me go ahead and present my case. We already know that what comes from the witness stand is evidence. Let me present my case. And when you keep objecting, you're going to make me lose my momentum. And so strategically, I need to make sure I don't say something crazy where I'm going to be objected to. But at the same time, depending on the case, y'all, I got to tote that line. And I was listening to some of the pundits saying, man, Trump lawyer came out rocky, man. He had the prosecution objecting, and he looked like he didn't know what he was doing. And some folks were saying, well, yeah, he only tried one criminal case in the last 10 years. All that kind of stuff. And I was like, nah, that's not what that is. See, the way I read it is, Trump's lawyer was getting out information that automatically was being objected to by the prosecutor and sustained by the judge, which meant that information shouldn't have came out, and they had pretrial hearings to address these issues. It's called motion in limine. Motion in limine is essentially the defense or the prosecution are raising evidentiary issues as it relates to whether or not evidence can come in trial. And so basically it's like, listen, before we do this objection thing in front of a jury and decide whether or not the judge can allow this evidence in, and once it's heard, you can't unring the bell, we do a motion in limine outside the presence of the jury, and we address all these issues, we streamline them, and at the end of the day, the judge say, listen, this could come in, this can't come in. Let's deal with it now so we won't have to deal with that issue later during trial while the jury's in the courtroom. But it's tactic for the defense lawyer. And what I realize is Trump's lawyer cannot argue that Trump relied on legal counsel. He can't use that as a defense. That issue was already litigated. And so any argument, any evidence as it relates to that is precluded. But yet you still got his lawyer mentioning that in opening statements. You can't unring the bell. That's strategic. That's toting the line. That's zealously represent your client. Because once you say it, if it makes sense, it may stick to a jury member. And you must understand, listen, out of the 12 jurors, all you need is one to get a hung jury. That's all you need is one. That could be, remember jury number 2 who tunes into True Justice, a media outlet owned by one of Trump's companies? I'm just saying, I don't want to pass any judgment on that individual. I'm just saying, all you need is one. So to me, in my experience, I believe that that's calculated, that his defense lawyer, Matt Blanch, no, look, this not coming in during evidence. I can't address it, but let me get it out there in opening statements. I just need the jury members to hear it. I just need them to hear that, listen, Stormy Daniels made Trump a victim. She did a shakedown on Trump. None of this stuff was true. There was no affair with Stormy Daniels, but she got $130,000 out of his campaign. Trump's lawyer is saying, listen, no. This ain't about an election. This ain't about deceiving the American people. He's saying, no. When all that came out about Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal and supposedly he had an illegitimate trial, like all that was lies, right? But that was going to embarrass Mr. Trump. Now you got his wife questioning about that. You got his kids questioning him about that. You got his whole family. That's an embarrassment. So he got to kill these stories. And I think what came out during testimony by David Peck, let me give you a little background story on that. AMI, American Media Incorporated, was a parent company for the National Enquirer, a tabloid. You probably heard of them, right? And so David Peck was a chairman on AMI. He was the CEO for the National Enquirer, right? And so the state alleges that David Peck, Donald Trump, and Michael Cohen had a scheme going on during the 2016 election. And basically this conspiracy was to catch and kill all kind of stories that were detrimental to Trump. But it was all done ultimately to influence the campaign. So David Peck is the people's witness number 1. And David Peck is spilling the beans, no question about it. It has been discovered that David Peck was granted immunity for all his testimony. When he initially was investigated about this incident, he got a slap on the wrist. Listen, y'all need to clean up y'all act over there at the National Enquirer. You need to clean up your act with AMI. You're too involved in these campaigns. This catch and kill scheme as it relates to a presidential election or any election for that matter is illegal. Don't do it anymore. And I'm sure they said we also need your cooperation in all these cases. Because remember, that thing turned into a federal investigation as well. Michael Cohen, I'm going to get to him in a few, right? Michael Cohen is another integral part in the state's case. They called him Trump's fixer. Come and clean up all the mess. Come and fix all these problems. His lawyer, his right-hand man, all that kind of stuff. I'll never forget this, man. This was so funny to me. Trump looked into that camera and called Michael Cohen a rat. I said, man, Trump out here wilding, man. I mean, listen, we already know how Trump rolled. He done said a lot of things that's unprecedented. And you better believe his supporters were rallying behind him. So this is that Michael Cohen. The same Michael Cohen who was investigated by the feds was looking at about 9 criminal counts, all in the Southern District of New York. And so he had about 9 counts, anything ranging from fraud, perjury, excessive campaign contribution. I mean, you name it, dude was caught up in a whole lot of charges. Man, it'd be a real situation when you in those rooms with them feds, man. The U.S. attorneys in that room, the federal agents, you in there sitting down with your defense lawyer, and they laying it out for you. Oh, yes. So here it is, Mr. Cohen. This is what we got for you. You did this with Trump. We got records showing this. We got a recording showing that. I'm just, some of this is conjecture, y'all. I wasn't in the room, but I'm just saying, they lay out what they already know. And so at the end of the day, they like, look, we're going to get you for these convictions. You're not walking out of this thing unscathed, right? But you still can help yourself. You still can cooperate. And you already know Cohen ain't built for that. Cohen like, man, I got a wife, I got 2 kids, man, where do I sign this paperwork at? Where my plea forms at? Come on, lawyer. Let's get this going, man. What y'all want to know? Just like that. This guy was with Trump, his right-hand man, for over a decade. What do you all want to know? Y'all, listen to episode 2. It's not about the Trump case. It's about the YSL Young Thug case. It's a very short one. The name of it is That G Code Ain't Easy. And yeah, the G Code may be talking about the street code, but even in everyday life, we talking about loyalty. Trump said, man, that dude can't be trusted. He a rat. He's slimy. Right? And then you got David Peck. David Peck, he was involved allegedly in this scheme with Trump. He took the stand talking about, yeah, I was on the phone with Trump. Trump was talking to me about Karen McDougal and how they going to deal with that situation, right? He took the stand. So he basically admitted this was part of the deal. This was part of the deal. But he also said, look, the story from the doorman where they paid $30,000 to get his story that Trump fathered a child out of wedlock, that story was untrue. He was like, listen, you got to understand, as a CEO for the National Enquirer, if that story was true and we would have ran that story, that would have been the biggest story since the death of Elvis Presley. So you already know they wanted that story to be true, but they had to verify it. And when they went to verify it, they had their private investigators on the case. And when they went to go look into the case, it wasn't verified. I'm like, all right, y'all doing y'all due diligence. All right, y'all got some journalism integrity. I see your tabloids. I see your National Enquirer. Because I ain't gonna lie, sometimes it seems like they just be throwing anything out there. You already know, we standing in the line at the grocery store and we see that National Enquirer. Some of us buy it. Some of us just read it like, man, that's bizarre. Oprah Winfrey did what? Bruce Willis said what? You know, it's just, Barack Obama's daughters did what? Like, just bizarre stuff. You know, Nicole Kidman did what? Like, it just be some crazy stuff that you see. You just kind of keep it moving. And a lot of times they put a big question mark on the bold statement. But look at the tabloids. The tabloids saying, listen, that was untrue. And I think that may play in Trump's favor when you have a situation where Trump's team had to pay a doorman $30,000 to kill a story, and turns out the story wasn't true. I think that works into Trump's favor because an argument could be made. They're saying we influencing the election, but we trying to kill stories that aren't even true. And so that's why you got the defense lawyer in opening statement saying, listen, Stormy Daniels lied about the affair. Objection sustained. Toothpaste out the tube. And so let me break down this scheme, y'all, this catch and kill scheme. Basically, the people of New York saying, listen, we got Trump, we got Cohen, and we got David Peck. David Peck is the head guy for the National Enquirer. Cohen, Trump gets with David Peck and say, listen, man, I need you to get all these stories that are to the detriment of Trump and purchase these stories. And when you purchase these stories, you have it, put it in writing, have the lawyers draft it up, and make sure you have the exclusive rights to this story. So when you go to the doorman about this illegitimate child, you pay him to get the exclusive rights to this story. So essentially saying, all right, we got this story. The doorman can't go to anybody else with this story. We got it. And what the National Enquirer do with that story, they have the choice to disseminate that story or they could kill it. They could bury it. And so basically, that's what the National Enquirer is doing. They're burying the story. So you had the doorman, $30,000. Boom. They paid. But listen, Trump and Cohen is basically saying, you purchase it, we're going to reimburse you the money. Allegedly. Right? And so now you have a situation with Karen McDougal. Karen McDougal comes out. She alleges that she had a month-long affair with Donald Trump back in 2006. Again, this is during the campaign. I think this actually came out before the Access Hollywood tape. Remember that tape? I'm going to get to that. But now Michael Cohen gets wind that there's a story that Karen McDougal is coming out saying she had an affair with Donald Trump back in 2006. Again, you got to remember, this is during election time. People are making a decision whether or not Trump is the right candidate, whether or not Hillary Clinton is the right candidate. We got to kill these stories that are not putting Trump in a favorable light. We got to get rid of them. And so Cohen gets wind of this story, and all of a sudden, according to David Peck's testimony, he's like, listen, man, Cohen's sweating now. He anxious. He calling me multiple times during the day. He want to talk about, man, did y'all get the story? We need to kill that story. So David Peck understand, he telling everything, y'all. Yeah, I talked to Cohen. Yeah, I talked to Trump. Yeah, this was real. But I anticipate Trump's defense team saying there's nothing about the catch and kill that's illegal. These are non-disclosure agreements. In fact, we don't know for all this to even be true. When you try to verify whether or not Trump had a child out of wedlock, you realize that wasn't true. There's nothing wrong with this. But what the state's counter would be, listen, whether it was true or not, that's not the issue. Whether it was a non-disclosure agreement, that's not the issue. The issue is you concealed these agreements, these hush money payments, you concealed it and characterized it as payments to your lawyer. And then you inflated the numbers. If you look at all the falsification of business records, you look at the memos, you look at the ledgers, you look at the invoices, it indicates that about $420,000 in legal fees were made to Michael Cohen. But what's baked into those legal fees is a payment made by Michael Cohen himself for $130,000 to Stormy Daniels. Remember Stormy Daniels? Now, Stormy Daniels, y'all, let me put this in a little context. Remember back in 2016, October, leading up to the election. Now we're talking about Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And about 2 weeks up into election time, the Access Hollywood tape drops. Y'all remember this one. This was the video that was supposed to take Trump out. Right? Like, this was the one, y'all. We already know. This was the one where everybody was like, oh, it's over. Trump done. Stick a fork in him. It's over. This is the video because we already know it's one thing when folks come out and say something, allege something, right? It's a totally different situation when you got this person on tape. You got a video, and sometimes the audio may or may not be as compelling because it's like, is that his voice? I don't know. The audio is kind of muffled. I don't know whether to believe that, but when you have a visual, remember the video on the Access Hollywood bus. Trump is on there saying, man, I'm just attracted to beautiful women. I just go up to them and I just kiss them. It's like a magnet, man. I just start kissing on them and they let me. And I'm paraphrasing y'all, but y'all remember that video. We thought it was over. We saw it with our own eyes. Everybody thought it was over, man. You had endorsements, people rescinding their endorsement. The evangelical community was like, oh, no, this is it. No, we definitely do not condone this type of behavior. Most of us thought Trump was done. Trump was like, it ain't over till it's over. Cohen, same way, nothing but the confidence. It ain't over till it's over. And so when that happened, then you had Stormy Daniels. Her story was kind of brewing. But at this time, remember the alleged conspiracy. National Enquirer, I need you to catch and kill these stories. You pay them. That way, there's no paper trail, and we're going to reimburse you the money. Now, allegedly, this hasn't came out during trial. It may come out. It may not. I'm not sure. But I read from a reliable source that National Enquirer was like, listen, man, we didn't pay $30K to the doorman. We didn't pay the $150 to Karen McDougal's lawyer, and we ain't getting our reimbursement. I mean, what's the deal? We out here catching and killing, getting rid of these stories, making favorable stories about you, putting a little dirt on some of the candidates, where our bread at. And so that's when you got Cohen. Cohen, not Cohen is kind of like, I got to handle this. Because now they tripping. They like, man, listen, allegedly, we ain't doing this no more. Now Cohen's like, now I got to figure this out, because the National Enquirer, normally we'd be like, look, man, you handle that right quick. Right? David Beck, have your people, Dylan Howard, the chief editor for the National Enquirer, have him handle that situation. Get rid of Stormy Daniels. We don't need that right now, especially after Access Hollywood just came out. We do not need that right now. We keeping hope alive over here, man. We trying to get to this finish line. And so now, allegedly, Cohen is like, man, I got to figure this thing out, because now I don't have the National Enquirer behind the scenes dealing with this situation. So he allegedly takes out a home equity loan on one of his properties. And from that home equity loan, he takes $130,000 and pays Stormy Daniels' lawyer, allegedly. And so you got to understand, that's $130,000 out of Michael Cohen's own account. That's his money. That come out of his pocket. That don't come out of Trump's campaign fund. That don't come out of any of the Trump Tower business accounts. That's $130K came out of Cohen's account. But Cohen, like, by any means necessary, man, we got to kill his story. And so let's hush up Stormy Daniels. We'll figure the rest out. And so according to the people of New York, after looking at the business records, and this started way when the feds were looking at Cohen, said, hold on a second, none of this stuff adding up. Where all this money coming from? This not adding up. So you mean to tell me this was legal fees of $420,000 were made to you in legal fees? All right, itemize this. Explain this for me. Make it make sense. Right? And at that time, Cohen under the gun, he pressured. He looking at 9 counts. They on him. His freedom on the line. He squealed. So this trial right here, after he done already served 3 years with the feds, this easy for him now. He way past the label being a rat, being a snitch. He way past that. Matter of fact, he done embraced it. At the very least, dude wrote 3 books about being a rat. He like, listen, if Trump gonna give me this label, I'm gonna just go ahead and embrace it. I'm gonna make my money. I'm not a lawyer anymore. I took my conviction. I did 3 years. I'm disbarred. I'm out for the count. Call me a rat. Call me a snitch. I got 3 books for you. Disloyal, Revenge, and The Big Lie. Yeah, he out here making money. You say, man, I miss them legal fees. I miss them checks from Trump, man. I gotta make a living. And so what we have here is the lead attorney saying, look, we got Michael Cohen as a witness. And they didn't set it up on opening statement. They say, listen, now look, Michael Cohen has his flaws. And they smart in doing this because they want to be proactive. This is what we call embrace the ugly facts, right? So you got Michael Cohen embracing being a snitch, and you got the prosecutors embracing him being slimy. They saying, listen, look, you got somebody who his trustworthiness is questionable. Pled guilty to fraud, lying to Congress, pled guilty to perjury. So you got somebody from a credibility standpoint is questionable, but I need you to understand, I'm not just bringing you Michael Cohen. This is the people of New York. This is the lead prosecutor. I'm not just bringing you Michael Cohen to convict Donald Trump. I'm bringing you Michael Cohen with evidence to corroborate what Michael Cohen's saying. I got David Peck. I got recordings. I got emails. I got receipts. Right? See, from a prosecution standpoint, man, it's like making New Orleans gumbo. You got to admit, making gumbo is not New Orleans gumbo if all I got is roux, some chopped sausages, and maybe the Holy Trinity. And if you're not familiar with the Holy Trinity, in South Louisiana, basically we talking bell peppers, onions, celery. So just because you threw that in a pot, you got your roux, you got the Holy Trinity, you got some sausages in there, that doesn't make it gumbo. Now, those are all ingredients of gumbo, but that doesn't make it New Orleans gumbo. That just might make it brown gravy, right? And you already know if you from New Orleans and that gravy too thick, nah, that's not gumbo. We call it juice. So you need less flour and more stock to make that liquid a juice, not a gravy. So what the prosecutor is essentially saying is, listen, look, if all I got is Michael Cohen, I don't know if I could prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. But I'm giving you David Peck to corroborate what he's saying. I'm giving you recordings to corroborate Cohen's statements. I'm giving you emails. I'm giving you photographs. Nah, we not just going to try to convict this man on Michael Cohen's statement alone because we know he's questionable. See, the recordings, that's the shrimp, right? The emails, that's the crab legs. You see what I'm saying? David Peck, that's the okra, right? We put more stock into the roux, less flour, right? Now we making gumbo. Now we meeting our burden. Now we proving our case beyond a reasonable doubt. This ain't just gravy and rice. This is New Orleans gumbo. Yeah, y'all. That's how you got to break it down sometimes. Your boy ain't no prosecutor, but I ain't gonna lie. If I was one, I'd be a bad mofo. But that's about the most you gonna get me bragging about myself, y'all. I'm just clowning around over here, but I'm telling you, that's how it is, man. Proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt is like making New Orleans gumbo, man. You can't come up in there just with a little bit of ingredients, right? You got to have that circumstantial evidence, that celery, the shrimp, the okra, the roux got to be perfect. If you come in there with just a little bit of ingredients, that's not gumbo, y'all. That's gravy and rice. And so the prosecution is setting it up and say, I get it, man. If we talking about Cohen and Cohen alone, you can't trust him. And then you better believe defense attorney coming in and saying, listen, Cohen slimy. You can't believe a word that's coming out his mouth. And if you haven't understood nothing else that I've been saying for these past 11 episodes, I think by now you understand when you got somebody who's back against the wall, who's looking at serving time in prison, you already know there's a motivation for that person to cooperate. And within that cooperation, you may find some lies in there. You may find somebody who has to deliver the goods and the truth is just not enough. So I gotta fabricate some information because at the end of the day, I'm trying to help myself. There's only a few people that's saying, look, man, I'm loyal. I'm loyal to the defendant. And guess what? Trump got somebody. Trump has somebody that's loyal, y'all, by the name of Allen Weisenberg. Y'all, Allen Weisenberg, as we speak, is on Rikers Island in the Bronx, serving time. Allen Weisenberg was Trump's chief financial officer, handling all the money, under investigation with the feds, charged with crimes, civilly sued. I don't know anything on a civil case because, you know, you can be compelled to testify at a civil case, not a criminal case. He gets on the stand and says repetitively, I do not recall. I'm just curious, y'all. How many people we think we have like that in our camp? I'm just curious, man. Drop something in the comments for me. I want to start engaging y'all more. I need to know if y'all feeling some of the things I'm saying. Drop something in the comments if you on YouTube. If you listening to me on my podcast, shoot me something on my Instagram handle, Kenneth M. Willis. I need to hear from y'all. How many people we believe we have in our camp that's just loyal? And I'm not talking about criminal activity. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when stuff hit the fan, right? I'm just interested. Because I ain't gonna lie, man, I probably got maybe less than a handful of people that I know at the end of the day when stuff hit the fan, man, they going down with me. I'm not talking about criminal activity. I'm not talking about criminal activity, y'all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just, you know how it be when things get tight and you need to know who's loyal. I'm just saying Trump got one of those. Don't get it twisted. Everybody ain't turned on Trump. I'm not talking about criminal activity. I'm just saying. How many who out there in your circle that's gonna go and write 3 books? Or who in that saying, listen, man, when the ship falling, I'm like the folks on the Titanic, man. We playing the violin. You heard me? We in there playing the violin. Y'all remember that scene on the Titanic? All the rats then got off the boat. We trying to save our lives. Man, they playing the violin. Because that's where the term rat came from. I didn't know this for many, many years. I think I learned this maybe about 5-7 years ago. Where did the term rat come from? It basically means when the ship is sinking, the rats be the first ones off the ship. So who you got in your circle? Who the first ones off the ship scrambling, trying to save their life? Or you got somebody playing that violin? I'm with you, my dog. I'm with you. I know that's a bit extreme because them folks were about to die. But I'm saying, who going down with you? Trump got somebody going down with him. But I don't know if that's enough. I just don't know, y'all. It's interesting. I'm following it. I'm even more and more interested in it now. I did a deep dive into it. Like I said, this case is in New York. I've roamed the courtrooms at 100 Central Street in New York, New York. I'm very familiar with how things go down out there. I've practiced out there, not as much as I do in Louisiana, but I'm licensed out there. I like the different pace. I like the diversity out there. It's just a different feel, a different vibe, y'all. I might fly to New York for closing arguments, y'all. I might try to get in the courtroom. You never know. Stay tuned, though. You got to stay tuned, y'all. It's my time. Please like, please share. Go in the comments, holler at me. Y'all, I also need y'all to do me a favor. Go on your podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Obviously, tune in. But do me a favor, y'all. Give me a review. A positive review, obviously. Like, if you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. Like, but real talk, give me some reviews. Y'all already know I'm trying to grow. I definitely appreciate the energy, the love, the support. I cannot thank y'all enough. That's my time, y'all. Until next time, thank y'all for tuning in. See you later. One.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believe in high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.